Well, hello, everyone. Welcome back to Childless Not by Choice, where my mission is to recognize and speak to the childless not by choice women and men around the world. Civilla Morgan here. I am spreading the great news that we can live a joyful, relevant, and fulfilled life, although we did not have the children we so wanted. I would also like to thank everyone who recognizes that we are not all living the same type of life. Welcome to episode 106. Welcome, everybody. I would also like to thank my Patreon contributor, Ivy Calhoun, for her monthly financial contribution to the platform. Whether you contribute via patreon.com/childlessnotbychoice, or you go to the website childlessnotbychoice.net and make a contribution via PayPal. The PayPal tabs are right there on most of the websites at childlessnotbychoice.net. Just click on it, make a contribution. Your contributions are appreciated and used to help the platform get the word out. And just so you know, that means that the contributions go toward paying my podcast producer, my website manager, and my podcast host company, the company that I host my podcast with. They all get paid every month. So every contribution that is made will go towards those entities, as well as creating more content. There's a lot of work I have yet to do to get this podcast securely on the map globally. And that takes money. I need to buy ads on Instagram and on Facebook and maybe Twitter. I don't think I've ever purchased a Twitter ad, but I need to buy ad space on social media. And I'm also considering ads locally, and all of that takes money. And so anything that you can do to help create awareness and conversation for and about the childless not by choice demographic, whether or not you are childless not by choice, if you feel like this is a great message. I hear that quite a bit, and quite a bit from people who have children. They say this is an awesome message, and they love that there's a podcast about this, because there are so many hundreds of thousands of podcasts that people say, well, wow, there's a podcast about childlessness. So help me stay on the map and stay on the message and get the word out globally by making a financial contribution to the podcast. And it is appreciated. If you have further questions offline that you want to talk to me about, feel free to email me at civilla@civillamorgan.com. That's civilla@civillamorgan.com, or inbox me on social media. On Facebook, you can messenger me, Twitter, Instagram. I get private messages all the time. Just give me 24 to 48 hours to respond. Thank you. Well, as we continue on here, this is again episode 106. In this episode, I would like to talk to you about the plans for the year, plans for 2019. I also want to talk to you about some things that have transpired and changes that have taken place on the platform, on the podcast. So bear with me as we get into this. I did mention in the promo leading up to this episode that there are things that I'm going to discuss on this episode that after we talk about it here, we're going to move on and not talk about it anymore. It's not good to dwell. It's not healthy to dwell. And I just wanted to get the word out, though, let you know what's happening. As you hear changes, those of you who are longtime listeners, you may hear how the intro has changed. It was the same way for quite a long time, and then you started hearing different changes. And I just want to basically let you know what's happening, what's happened, and where we are headed, and maybe try to keep it in that order. I'm not sure. I may pivot from time to time because I tend to do that. So bear with me, and thanks again for tuning in. Well, the first announcement I would like to make off the bat is this. I am going to, starting in March, start producing just one episode per month. And I'm looking at about the third Monday of every month to get that one new episode out per month. As many of you know, from the time I started this podcast, it's been 2 episodes per month. The second and fourth Monday of every month was a fresh new episode. But at this time, I have made the decision to go to one episode per month. And at first, I felt really badly about this. I felt like I was going backwards. I felt like I was losing ground. And, after all of this work and all of this 3 years worth of podcasting and everything that I've done, to go to one episode per month just felt like I was losing, that it was a loss, and that I tried all types of ways not to have to do it, but I knew within my heart that going forward, and I'll tell you, it'll make more sense in a minute, but going forward in life with everything that I have going on, it made the best sense. And this is like my seventh take on recording episode 106. I've never had to do so many takes on an episode. Some episodes, it's taken me 2 or 3 tries to get to what I really wanted to say, but this is take 7. And take 6, I thought I was okay, but I also wanted to hear a second set of ears, and I asked my podcast producer to listen to it, and we had a conversation, and he was right. And so here we are at take 7. And that's one of the reasons why I'm so thankful for my podcast producer, but I'll get to that in just a second. We're going to one episode a month starting in March, and that will be for the foreseeable future. And I think it's always a good idea to get ahead of the game in life, because nobody knows what's coming. We don't know what's around the corner. We try to plan for around the corner, over the hill, and down the path. But a lot of things that happen that can just completely mess us up are not planned. They just happen, and we get hit and caught flat-footed, meaning we just didn't see it coming. We don't know what to do. We don't know how to process, and it's a mess. And so I kind of saw some things happening, and I'm dealing with some things, and I realized that, let me get ahead of this and just go to one episode a month. We'll leave it like that for now. I'm not going to say that it's going to change in 6 months or a year. We'll leave it at one episode per month until, for the foreseeable future. And let's just see where that takes us. And that takes me to my next point. Some of you know that for quite a bit of time, I was not working at a quote-unquote day job. I left my day job of 6 years in 2014. And I did that to set up this platform. The platform is set up now. It's been 4 years, and the podcast itself is 3 years old. The platform is 4 because I started podcasting slightly after the platform was created. I feel like it's at a decent place right now where it doesn't need a whole lot of time. Yes, there are tons of things to be done on this platform. There are lots of writing to be done, a lot of blogs to be written. I'm working on another book. I'm trying to promote a book I wrote 11 years ago. June will be 11 years. There is a devotional that's available that I wrote in 2015. And there's a lot to do. There is just a lot to do. But the fact is, I needed income, and I finally, after much searching and applying, found a job in November. So I am now working a 40-hour per week job, and I am caring for my parents. I am the sole caregiver for my parents. And with that, working full-time, being a caregiver for 2 people, and maintaining a platform, I didn't want to have to give something up when it came down to it. Something had to give. I wanted to get ahead of the curve, and I felt like going to one episode per month was one way to do that. I am also just making sure to be careful of anything that I add on to my plate. I'm also very much involved at my church, my local church, and my plate is full. It's full. I'm very, very careful with what else I add on. I'm okay with saying no when I need to, because I have to be. Because if you continue to say yes to everything, something is going to give, and something's going to fall apart and get messed up, and it's just best to know when to say no. At this point, I have quite enough on my plate. I'm good with what's on my plate, and by being their primary caregiver and doing the best I can with their health care, with dealing with their doctors, and it's not always easy. I am writing a book for and about the life of a caregiver because none of it is easy. It's not easy when you have to know that you have to take it one day at a time because you never know what's going to happen today. You may get some news today and tomorrow, different types of news, and you just have to go with the flow while maintaining your day job and maintaining a platform and basically trying to maintain your own life. You are also caring for two people, well, in my case, that I love very much, love my parents, and try to do the best that I can by them. But it's not always easy. And so, again, I thought that I better get ahead of this. And we're all getting older. Everybody's getting older. And of course, they're getting older. And I better get ahead of this and try to circumvent certain things and not try to throw 2 episodes together every month out of a stress, at a level of stress that I just can't maintain. So 1 episode per month, I'm caring for my parents and working a full-time job. And so I'm sure you get it. I'm sure you understand. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is that, as I mentioned earlier, you may have heard a difference in my intro. There was a time when I was thanking my podcast producer, who had also created one of my websites. He did double duty as podcast producer and website maintenance and creation. Very, very intelligent man. I'll never take that away from him. But back at the end of August, we parted ways. Unexpectedly to me. I had no idea it was coming. But right before the September episode was due, I realized I no longer had a podcast producer. He just walked away. And I was stuck. I was like, what am I going to do now? At that point, I really thought I was going to have to put down the podcast because I'm not a producer. I think I'm a relatively intelligent person, but I think part of intelligence is knowing your limitations. And I knew I had no business in the back end of any website, and I had no business calling myself a podcast producer. And at that point, I had the first episode of September episode to produce. It was already recorded. My part is to record, to research the content, record it, and ship it to my podcast producer. And I was stuck. What was I going to do? I fortunately found someone who is actually a mutual friend, and that person edited that podcast as a one-time way of helping me out, and I will never forget him for doing that because it's not his thing. It's podcast producing is not something that he wanted to do long-term for me, and he made that clear. And I appreciate people who make things clear, by the way, because I'm that type of person, and I know that people don't tend to appreciate that, but I surely do. So he said, look, I'll help you with this one, but try to find somebody because this is not something I want to do long term. It's not in my plan. And I really appreciated him just producing that one episode for me. And shortly thereafter, I found someone else. I started looking in earnest for somebody to continue to produce the podcast. Otherwise, I was going to have to put it down and just put out some repeats or something. And I needed somebody to manage my websites. Fortunately, I found a great podcast producer, which is the person that I ran take number 6 through and who made some suggestions to me. And I really appreciate the fact that, we follow each other on social media. We have followed each other. We didn't realize that one day we would have a business relationship, but it's amazing how those things happen. And I'm here to tell you, some people take social media as just time away from their real life or their real job. It's just time to just check in and see what's going on, what's new, argue with people, all of that wonderful stuff that's happening these days. But I don't see social media that way. Yes, it is a way to see what's going on in the world in different neighborhoods and communities around the world because you get to have friends around the world, and that's great. But I take the social media relationships seriously. And fortunately for me, it worked out because that's how I found my current podcast producer. I realized he could do this, and he's doing this. He's producing my podcast. So thank you so much, Scott, for coming up, stepping up, and helping me out and feeling comfortable enough to make suggestions on changes and everything that you're doing. You're awesome. Thank you so much. And then my website manager, he manages the childlessnotbychoice.net. and the CivillaMorgan.com websites. I found him through what would LinkedIn call it? He's a third level connection. I have a woman that I went to a mastermind with, a monthly mastermind for women only. And when I realized I didn't have anybody to manage my websites, I reached out to her, and she reached out to a friend of hers, and the friend of hers reached out to my now website manager. And that's how I got my website manager. So relationships are important. We should never take advantage of people. You don't build relationships to use people, because we know that's not nice. It's not about using people. It's about being of use to people, because I hope that one day I can be of help to these people who helped me out in a time of need when I felt like, what in the world am I going to do? I thought I was really going to have to put the podcast down. That was the first time I really seriously considered putting the podcast down for a little while. The second time was when I had to come to the decision to go from 2 episodes to 1 episode a month, so that I could properly put out good content, continually putting out good content instead of going backwards and putting out, haphazard things just to meet my deadline, and maybe not having enough time to care for my parents and get to doctor's appointments and get second opinions and all the things that you deal with as a caregiver. Getting crazy phone calls at work where they say, we need to talk to you now. Trust me, it's all happened. And so it's not easy, and I know you understand the changes. It doesn't mean that the podcast is eventually going away. No, it's not. It is not eventually going away. It will exist in some way, shape, or form, because it's doing good in the world. And I'm not trying to prop myself up, but it's doing good in the world when I get to hear from people who tell me that they have been tuning in and it's been helping them, and now they want to go seek a Childless Not by Choice group in their area, like the letter I got from the wonderful woman in Scotland, or the Ivy who messaged me and tagged me on Instagram to let me know that because of the podcast, she faced her childlessness, and now she's a big sister to a little soul. This is what this podcast is all about. One of my admins messaged me a few episodes ago, I think it was episode 59, and told me that because of that episode, she was able to seek the right doctor and get the right surgery, and now she is in such a better place. You can't make that stuff up. Another admin told on in our group, that for the first time she didn't fall apart when she was interacting with some children, and someone else told her, "You are so great with children." I know there was a time when I would have completely fallen apart if somebody said that to me. And I remember that people used to tell me, before I realized I was not going to be a mother, people used to tell me, "Oh my gosh, you would be such a great mother," because they saw how I interacted with my wonderful and awesome nephews when they were little kids. And I just, I was like, "Oh, that's wonderful," not realizing it was never going to happen. And now I'm dealing with a platform, although I still have my moments, like Mother's Day. If you've listened for any amount of time, Mother's Day is it's not my thing. And I only stopped attending church like 2 years ago on Mother's Day. I go with my mom for her church service, but I just opted not to go anymore. And of course, if you listen to the Mother's Day episodes of, in the past, I explained that you do not have to go. If you are somebody who goes to church, you don't have to go. You can if you're okay with it. But I was feeling all these years like I had to go, and not realizing until I interviewed a wonderful woman who is now in her 70s, who never had children and had a hysterectomy in her 30s. And she said she doesn't go. She's a church-going woman, and she just doesn't go on Mother's Day. And that was my light bulb moment. So I get my light bulb moments too. I'm running this platform, I'm running this podcast, but I'm still learning, just learning right along with everybody who's listening and tuning in. Why would I put this down? Why would I do that? It's not something that I'm being led to do. And so The podcast will remain. It's just going to be one episode for the time being, for however long that time being is. And I just appreciate those of you who continue to tune in. The numbers are getting higher, and I appreciate that as the episodes, the way we look at podcast listens and who's tuning into episodes is a week and a month basically. But a month after the podcast has aired, how many listens do you have? And I have a lot more now. It may not be thousands like some podcasts, but we will get there. I believe we will. But there are more and more listens as the month goes on, and I just appreciate that. I appreciate those of you who are tuning in, whether you are childless not by choice or not, and sharing and getting the word out and telling your friends and family and writing into me to let me know how the podcast is helping you. These things are awesome. It's just awesome to hear from you. I appreciate it so very much. So thankful for my podcast producer, thankful for my website manager, and I also want to let you guys know of something else. Not long after I lost my podcast producer, I lost my biggest sponsor. And again, that was, you know how it happens. It all happens. It just happens all at once. That's how life goes. And it wasn't anything personal. Again, they had to make changes. My sponsor had to make changes. They told me that they had to make changes. So at least I was aware that the changes were coming when it came to the sponsor. And so I appreciated that. But the fact is, I lost my biggest sponsor. That sponsorship money covered the payment to the podcast producer, who was also the website manager. It covered my podcast hosting fees, and it covered just about everything, literally. And now they're gone. And fortunately, I guess, is the fact that I found a job because now I can still cover these things. They're coming out of pocket, except for my patron. Everything else is coming out of pocket. And this is where you come in. If you are finding value in these episodes, help me continue to get the word out by making your contribution, whether it's through Patreon. Patreon is a site where you go, you enter your credit card number, so your credit card will be debited on a monthly basis, and you set up the amount. It's a $5 minimum. Then the next level is $25, next level is $50, and the top level is $100. And you can see at each level what you get, what I send you or give to you for each level of contribution that you make. If you don't want to go to Patreon and set up a credit card, some people don't, I get it. You can also make a contribution via PayPal. If you go to childlessnotbychoice.net, for instance, on most of the side panels on the website, there's a link to PayPal. And so go to PayPal and go to the PayPal link on the website and enter whatever dollar amount you'd like to. Make a donation. The donate button is right there. And that helps. The money's still going to get to me. I will use it to help pay my podcast hosting fees, my podcast producer, my website manager, and to buy ads. I'm looking at I haven't purchased ads in quite some time on social media. And so I want to buy some ads on Facebook and Instagram to help bring more people into the Facebook groups and bring more listeners in. There are millions of childless not by choice people out there. I want those millions of people to be listening to this podcast. And again, that's another reason why I don't want to give, haphazard episodes and thrown together episodes. These episodes have to be on point and on the mark and filled with great content, and great research has to be put into these things. There are going to be some episodes that, especially one episode that I'm considering right now, I don't know, you may not like me after that episode. But I've got to tell you where I'm coming from as a childless not by choice woman. And one of the things that many of us have noticed lately is we're not disagreeing properly, especially on social media. We're being very mean to each other as human beings when we don't agree on a certain subject, and that should not be the case. We should be able to voice our opinion and our feelings on a matter without feeling threatened or being threatened. And fortunately, that's not been the issue on the platform and in the Facebook groups. The women are quite wonderful. Everybody is encouraging to each other, regardless of race, color, demographic, religious beliefs. Everyone is very kind to each other, and I'm thankful for that. And there are going to be episodes where you resonate with the message and where you don't. It doesn't mean that I'm trying to get rid of anybody. That's not the case. That wouldn't make any sense, basically. But just a heads up, there are going to be episodes that are going to be helpful. Some of the suggestions that I've been asked to cover include, does a childless not by choice woman need life insurance? And I am licensed in the state of Florida to sell life and health insurance. I'm not currently working for a firm, so I couldn't sell you anything. But I will tell you point blank, the answer is yes. I'm going to be doing an episode on why the answer is yes. We're going to be talking about as you become an elderly person, as a childless not by choice person, as you age without children, how you do that. Do you move into certain communities where, retirement type communities? Things like that we're going to be discussing. We're going to be discussing some heavy things and maybe some easier to discuss things, but stay with me. I'm not trying to drive anybody away. I'm just voicing things and voicing my opinions and getting the word out about every aspect and facet of the childless, not by choice woman, man, and demographic globally. And that's the bottom line at the end of the day. So again, I'm going to ask for contributions. Any amount will do. Don't think that it's a small amount so I won't want it. No, again, I'm putting every penny that comes in back into the platform. So if it's $1, $5, $20, $100, $100,000, it's going back into the platform. I'm going to get the word out. And trust me, if I get $100,000 contribution, yes, I know I have to pay taxes on it, but that's going to give me the opportunity to write the books that I need to write and create the courses that I want to create. And just know that there's no amount that's too small or too large, because I mean for this podcast to get to 1 million downloads. Yes, I said it. I can have 1 million downloads a month because there are that many childless not by choice people on the planet. So your contribution will help to do that. Again, I'm not going to belabor the point. This is what we're looking at for 2019. This is what we're looking at as we go into the future. Past 2019, remember that even the purchases that you make on the shop tab of the website, that is money that will come back to the platform. If you want to go to TeePublic gives back. Every purchase you make, they get a portion and they send back a portion to me. So if you go into the shop tab on the website, I'm going in there right now. If you go into the shop tab on the website, you'll see some items that it says available at TeePublic. So when you click on that link click on the TeePublic link, it'll take you over to the TeePublic store and take you into my storefront, Childless Not by Choice. You'll see the content that's available. There's a mug. There is a laptop case, t-shirts. If you don't want to just announce to everybody that your childless not by choice, maybe you're not there yet and you're thinking, I don't want a mug that says childless not by choice. Well, there is also a mug that has the logo, but it says relevant, living, joyful life surrounding the logo. And same for the t-shirts and the laptop cases. So you have a choice. You can live out loud, your childless not by choice. If you're not there yet, it's okay. Choose something with the words living a joyful, relevant life. And they're all there. There's stickers for your laptop. I've got tons of stickers on the cover of my laptop. There is a 30-minute session there that we can sit and talk for 30 minutes. The devotional, the 31 days of encouragement is in there. That's coming from me. It's not in the TeePublic store. So you can see what is in the TeePublic store and what's not. But in either case, that money's coming back to me and going into the platform. So help support a platform that you listen to on a regular basis. And that would be truly and greatly appreciated. I hope that this has answered a lot of questions for you as far as the changes you've heard on the intro. If you've noticed, some people notice, some people don't. Some people skip ahead to the content and you may not have noticed the changes, but that tells you what's going on basically on the podcast, on the platform, in my real life of making sure I care for the people that I love and also care for myself, because this is a self-care thing too. If I go from 2 episodes to one, I have more time to take care of me. And as a caregiver, especially when you're caring for more than one person, you have to make sure that you have some mental, emotional time to yourself, even if it's just going to the movies with some friends or going to the lakefront or, taking time to read a book, something. There has to be a level of self-care to keep up with the schedule. And this is it's a busy schedule that I have. I'm not going to downplay it. I know it's a busy schedule. And some of you are thinking, how does she do it? But when you are called to do something, you get it done. It would be great if you can get some assistance sometimes with certain things. There are things on the platform I wish I could get help with, but then I think, I don't know. Maybe I, want to try to do it myself. And that's not a good attitude to have either. And I know that. So I'm thankful for the admins that help me maintain the groups, the Childless Not by Choice groups on Facebook. I actually admin the Childless Not by Choice supporters group by myself. But the Childless Not by Choice group for women only, I have 3 admins, and so I'm thankful to them because they help keep the content fresh and they reach out when people join. And so that's what admins are there for, and I appreciate them and they know it. And so, just know that, yes, I have a lot going on. I feel called to do the things that I'm doing. I will not add more things on that just because. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to be very specific and pinpoint, things that need to be done and things that will need to be left off for now. And just make sure that I'm healthy mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, because that's where I want you to be. And it doesn't make any sense for me to be a scatterbrain and be trying to get you focused on where you need to be and where you should be and where you want to be as a childless, not by choice person, if I am just all over the place and not doing the best I can in every area of my life. So I know you totally get that. I'm hoping that you will do the best you can this year and be able to say no where you need to. You know where you need to say no. We all do. Not try to be out there and out in front just to see and be seen. We need to be able to be truthful with ourselves. And one of the ways I can suggest that you do that is, again, back to the shop tab. If you look at the shop tab, the very first item you see there is the 2019 blueprint for your goals and visions. It's not too late. We're heading into March, but we're still in the first quarter of 2019. If you buy that blueprint, it's $10 US. It's online, so you can buy it from anywhere in the world. If you purchase that blueprint and fill in the blanks, because I created the blueprint and you just have to go fill in the blanks, that I believe will help guide you through the year 2019 and beyond, because you can just use this blueprint every year unless I tweak it, which I may at some point next year or maybe the year after. But if you just use this, I think this will help guide you. I know it will help guide you into where you want to be, what you want to see manifest in your life, in your finances, in your relationships, and what you were put on this planet to do. This is good for anyone. It's not just for the childless, not by choice demographic. This is a blueprint that it took me 3 years to create, and I used it for 3 years and tweaked it through those 3 years after researching and finding out how successful people made their resolutions. And it turns out they don't make resolutions. They make plans and they create and set goals and visions, and then they follow through. It's really that simple. But this blueprint will help you with the follow through, because you have to refer to it every month, every quarter, every 6 months. And by the end of the year, if you do everything that you filled in the blanks on this, you will see a difference. I promise you will. So please do check it out. Everything's on the shop tab. Of course, the podcast tab is there if you want to listen to all the podcast episodes, the reflections, basically the blogs, many of them written by women right there in the Facebook group, the resources, the community site where you can enter and join the conversation there. It's been a little quiet in there, but there are people in there. But I'd like to ask you to come on over to the community, which is on the website. When you go to childlessnotbychoice.net, you will see the tab that says Enter Community. And you can join there with your Facebook credentials or create your own login ID and password. And get in there and create some conversation. Don't wait for somebody to create conversation. You be the conversation starter. And that way we can get things going there. You have two places to go. You can go to the Facebook groups, the Facebook page, or come in here to the community. I hope that this has been enlightening. I'm sure it has been. I hope that everything makes a little bit more sense now. And I plan that on going forward, that things will get better. They will get better. There's always a dip whenever you're trying to make something happen. I'm not taking anything that happened personally. When things happen, usually it's because they had to. No matter how they happened, they had to. And that's the way I'm going to look at it. I don't believe in holding grudges and holding on to stuff. It's not healthy. It's never healthy to hold a grudge. I've never been a grudge holder. Yes, I become upset. I become saddened and troubled and all of those things like any normal human. But I don't hang on to grudges. I tell you what I have to say, and then I'm done. We're done. I'm good. We're good. So it's not healthy to hold on to grudges and to try to get people back and all of those negative things that take up space in your brain and in your head and in your mind. It's best to free up your mind, especially if you are a creative. You've got to free up your mind, do some forgiving. Forgiving takes time. It does, especially depending on what happened. It does take time, but I'm here to tell you, I have forgiven my former podcast producer. And I'm now moving on. I've got a new podcast producer. He's awesome. A new web maintenance person. He's awesome. And I'm good. We're all good. I'm going to get back to where I can get sponsors again. And I'm going to thank you in advance for any contributions you can make, whether or not there are sponsors. Any contribution you can make to the platform would be deeply appreciated. Thanks for understanding again that I do have a real life where things can get really busy and hectic. Thanks for understanding that I kind of had to say what I had to say here for episode 106. And then moving forward, we're moving on. All is well. All is good. Now it's time to move on to a new and next phase of the Childless Not by Choice platform. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. Love you guys. You guys are awesome. Until next time, I'll talk to you later. 3rd week of March. Bye.